golden suit, we are in Thailand. We are here for the KTM's organization, the event called Duke It. Now, we have the whole family. We started riding the KTM Duke 200, then we rode 390, then 690, then finally on this Bonanza circuit, we rode 1290, and it was like shitting our pants again. In the beginning of 1990s, KTM did something extraordinary. They made this bike, KTM Duke, the first generation. According to some rumors, Mr. Gerhard Kiska personally took a bottle of wine, Italian one I think, and then he took a machine, scissors in his hand and cut an existing enduro bike into this. And then the history begins of Duke. Now, this is the fourth generation. There have been made plenty of changes on this bike, from suspension to injection mapping, from double spark plugs to different swing arms. Everything has changed. Now finally they released a 690 stunt version, which is quite handsome bike. Now, for the small ones, KTM is a company that is run by some lunatics who are riding motorcycles. They listen to customers, and the biggest concern of customers were about the seat, which changed now, about the hand grips, about the brakes, and also for the Asian countries, these protection for radiators. Now, they listened to all the concerns and problems of the customers and changed all of these. This is quite an achievement. Now, if you own a KTM or planning to buy one, now don't hesitate to send them an email telling your problems. They'll probably listen to it. They made all these changes, including these turn signals, which are more harder to break, and it's still maintaining the same price. Now, that's good news for the young people who are planning to buy this thing. And for the 390, there has been a major change. You know, this has an engine of nearly 44 bhp at the back wheel. When we downshift, it was like jumping on track. So they added a slipper clutch for this thing, and I think for the time being it is the smallest bike to have a slipper clutch on the market, and it is now much easier and comfortable to ride. They also changed and tweaked the suspension settings on this thing, and also the tires changed, which is quite a welcome change, because personally I do hate Metzeler K5s. You know, this has now Pirelli Rosso 2, which is quite good. Now, it handles superbly in Turkish roads and in countries where the asphalt quality is not so good. So this is becoming more and more refined Duke 390. And I thoroughly recommend this one. This is the perfect balance for the starting people. For the 690, there's a myriad of alternatives and accessories for this bike. You can still ride it on touring, you can ride it in town, you can have it your fun on track. It is, how to say, in the middle where you can put whatever you want and not at a great price. So this is much more for the clever guy who is planning to buy a bike, a bigger bike, after the small one. And about Superduke. Now, when we were listening to the press conference yesterday night, they told us when they built the Duke 1 in the 90s, it was like an asteroid which fell on the Earth, like a meteor. Now, and they called the Superduke the second asteroid to fall on Earth. Nobody knew what it was going to handle like, or what it was going to look like. So the first generation was a direct descendant from the adventure bike, but this bike is developed with a MotoGP and racetrack genius, Mr. Jeremy McWilliams. Let's listen to him now. Mr. McWilliams, can you please tell us your story of development this bike, the Superduke?
Early on in the development, well, the very early stage of development, they asked me to come along and ride the bike and give my opinion. Yes, of course, it was, the basic concept was there. I was very impressed with the bike. The bike was everything it is now with the 1300cc engine, but the geometry was a little different, and the The swing arm wasn't the last.
The chassis geometry, yes?
The geometry, the chassis was the same, but the geometry wasn't. So we were asked between myself and the R&D department to help develop the bike, and really we went along with WP suspension, the R&D technical crew, and myself, and we spent the next 6 or 8 months working on the bike. You know, finding a tire that suited the bike best. You know, we tried everything. We also tried to change the geometry one way or the other, the seating position, the ergonomics a little bit, the bar height, really most things that you add on to the bike. Obviously the bike was there, the chassis was fixed, and the swinging arm was fixed.
So, what do you like most about Superduke?
Well, I feel I have an affiliation with the bike because I was involved for so long in the development side of it. But you know, we get it so far to make it work on the road and track. You know, my involvement was not just to come along and help the bike or help the technical department make the bike work on the racetrack. It had to work on the road as it did on the track. And obviously, in the early part, we did no electronics, so we then worked with Bosch Electronics to develop the traction control and the ABS, which I was involved in also. And then later on, we came up with the race bike that you tried today.
The race bike is something else, yes, we know that.
Which really is, I mean, it's this bike, but there are add-on parts. So you've got suspension, exhaust, a little bit mapping change for throttle response.
She's a right handful, that bike.
Yeah, I mean, it's noticeable. It's 12 horsepower more with the exhaust system, but the...
Only with the exhaust or also the map?
No, the map has nothing to do with it. It's a standard bike with just the exhaust system. So you get 5 Newton meters and 12 horsepower.
More.
Which
is already too much in our opinion, but anyway.
I mean, it works well. You were riding it all right earlier, I don't...
So, what would you like to tell to Turkish audience?
Well, I've only been once in Istanbul. I remember it being quite a busy city, maybe a difficult city to ride a motorbike in, but my involvement has changed quite a bit from racing to helping with the development riding, and it's quite a new thing for me to get involved in. You know, I worked with the adventure also with the 1190, firstly on the traction control and then on the 1290 on the semi-active suspension. So there's lots of new things for me to be doing, which kind of keeps me interested and keeps my passion to ride, you know, going, because I kind of need to be on the ball if I'm asked to come along and help develop the bike. So if I can ride, I ride at every opportunity. Maybe that's a better thing, you know, from my point of view, to give advice to other riders is to ride more and more, as much as you can ride, because the more that we ride even here today on the circuit, you can see how much easier it becomes. If you only ride once every, you know, once a month or whatever, it's difficult to do what we were doing today at such a high level.
Jeremy McWilliams diyor ki bol bol sık sık motosiklet sürün. Bak bu kısmı çok önemli. Ne yaparsanız yapın. İstanbul'da bulundum. Evet, orada motosiklet sürmek zor. Ama siz ne yaparsanız yapın. Bol bol motor sürün diyor. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. McWilliams. KTM Duke series. From cradle to grave, you can have whatever you want. These are lunatic bikes. They are different from the pack. They are different from everything you might see before. And the company which is building these things are listening to bikers' concerns and problems, because everybody working in that company are bikers. They are from us.